recording. Then, yep, great. So, guys, the plan for today is we will look at some basic Linux command. Then, after which we'll get our hands dirty using them on a server which is hosted somewhere, and seeing how that works. Probably finding out possible exploits just by doing enumeration, not running any scripts, just doing some fun enumeration, looking at permissions, looking at five share, looking at configurations and all that stuff, and maybe automating some of the processes in script to discovering bad configuration as usual, low hanging fruits that we can maybe exploit to gain remote code execution on the box. Okay, so I'm recording and I'm going to share a screen where I have got some slides. We'll just rapid fire look at them and we'll jump into the real stuff. So whilst we'll be looking at the slide share, we'll also be doing the demo. So once in a while, I might break the slide share just to um, show the demo. And I believe that should be fine. A few other things that are not covered in the slide, we'll look at them or like look at them maybe differently. So please bear with me. I've got multiple screens happening happening here, so it's a little bit messy, but I think I've got it under control. I hope so. Yeah. So let me tell myself I've got it under control. All right. So can you see the slide?
Yep.
All right, great. So let's look at some Linux commands, basic commands. Uh, we are starting from the low level, so please, uh, we will get to the advanced, and so it's more like for the benefit of those who had asked that maybe we should have a session or maybe a couple of sessions on Linux so they can understand how the commands work and also learn how to use these commands. So that's the reason why we have or we're having this session. So let's hope it benefits them. Great. So some Linux commands. I've got about 47 slides. Might not be able to finish all of them. Hopefully, we'll see how much of it we can take. Yeah. So the first thing I've got here is connecting to a Unix Linux system. Basically, you can connect if the system has been configured to be only text only or text based only, so you have to use the terminal. But if it's text and then graphic, obviously you can RDP into it, or you can maybe use a browser session to gain UI where you can do your stuff. So today we'll be looking at both. I believe our server has been configured to allow RDP and also HTTP text connection. So let's hope we're able to use both of them to gain access. So this is what a terminal looks like. You've got a bunch of them. Sorry, for sure. So you can be looking at more advanced recent ones like the Z shell, or you might be looking at some classical ones like the Bash, or maybe the SH, or there are a couple of them. Well, for the purpose of today, we'll just be focusing on maybe Bash and Z shell, because on my PowerTrax, I think I've got Z shell running. Then on the remote host, I think it's got Bash running. So I think Bash is one which you find in any flavor of Linux. Because I've also got the Red Hat Enterprise Linux, which is the enterprise standard Linux, and I've got Ubuntu as well. And you'll find out that Bash is what is there by default. So if we're able to get our hands around some of the basic Bash commands, it should be good. Quickly before we jump into this, I'm going to recommend a couple of books that you could probably go look up that can help fine tune your Linux skill. Some of them are just like a handbook. The first one I've got right in my hands, you can see it, although I think the video is on, so maybe you can go look. When you get the video, you'll find this. I'm pointing right in front of the camera. It's called the Linux 101 Hack. So Linux 101 Hack is more like Linux for hackers. It's a very good book. You can download it free from PDF drive.net. And it's got some very cool fun tricks for using Linux to do lots of stuff, down from basic to advanced. You find all them sorts, all them sed, awk, and all those deep several Linux commands which can come handy. Um, these may be a bit advanced for some of us, but I believe you also find the basic commands which we're going to look around today, and that should help you at least find your way around Linux environments and easily be able to use Linux to do one or two stuff. Or maybe just fall in love with Linux and make it your default. Just like me, I don't run Windows anymore except in virtual environments. I use a Mac and a full-blown Linux system. It's my main driver for today. So great, that's the first one. Then the second one I've got here is actually this is Linux 101 hacks. Then the second one is Bash 101 hacks as well. So I'm going to point that right in front of the screen as well. Bash 101 hacks is also a very good one. Pretty much integrated, extended as well. It's a bit robust, but it's more like on my desk. They are my default go-to when I need to probably look up a few things around Bash and Linux as well. So Bash 101, more like the starter Bash book, but beyond just for starters, you've got advanced stuff happening there. Being able to use Bash to automate Linux administration, and not just relying on maybe running commands, rather using Bash to set up auto scripts that could automate the whole process of administering a Linux system. What it is administering a Linux system, anyways. So down from executing jobs and setting crons, and also doing some other advanced stuffs using the pluggable authentication model in Linux to manage authentication and other stuff. Then also down to scripting, building Bash scripts to automatically set audit file permissions, look for weak configurations, and just get them fixed, or notify you as an admin so you can go triage and get them sorted out. It's always good to have stuff like this come handy when you are on the job, and you probably just need somewhere to go look up a few things. You can always fall back to books like this, and they'll help you. There are a bunch of even sample Bash scripts to audit Linux, more like audit file permissions, audit shares, and all this stuff. A bunch of scripts that automates the process, which they have here already. So if you get the book, I'm sure it will help you a lot. All right, enough with the book talking. So I'm going to put both of them aside. Besides this, I've got Bash for the Bash for Dummies. Bash for Dummies is also a very good book, and there are also there's Linux for Dummies and a couple of other books about Linux. So if you're able to get them, I think you find them in pdfdrive.net, or you can buy, if you use the Kindle, you can buy them, or you find them in Amazon. You can also find them in Amazon and grab them for yourself. It's always good to have resources like this anyways, because you don't always want to rely on free stuff. So sometimes it's good to have things you accolade, which you can find back. So fun stuff. Great, so enough with that chitty chatting. Back to this. All right, so basically when you open a terminal, so just like in the example we have there, you have the host, you have the prompts, then you have the current directory, or what we call the path. So you will find that as an example here. You see Z home, we see this colon, then we see the tilde sign, then Linux underscore tutorial, then we see the dollar sign. So if you are not logged in as a sudo user or as a root user, you will have the dollar sign. But if you log in as a root user, you're gonna have the what's that called? Is it yeah, hash sign? Yeah, I think that's. So this is what the basic prompt looks like. I believe you're familiar with this. It's not something completely new. All right. So moving on from this, what exactly is called a shell? So we say after logging in Linux, Unix starts another program called shell. The shell interprets command, the user types, and manages execution. So a shell could be likened well, even on the Windows environment, you've got shells. Anyways, you've got the CMD, you've got the PowerShell. You've also got some other proprietary shells as long as third-party shells, which can run on a Windows environment. I think you can run the Corn shell or even the Git shell can run on a Windows environment. So a shell basically enables you as an administrator or even as a hacker to communicate with low-level areas or aspects of the server, either Linux or Windows, either of them. So you could execute commands that run on kernel modules and make modifications or probably edit or even look at what is happening at that low level environment, which you won't find just using a graphical user interface. We can see right here that the shell communicates with the internal part of the operating system called the kernel. The most popular shells are that's for Linux anyways. You have the TCSH, the CSH as a corn SH. You've got the corn, you've got the bash. Then there's also the Z shell and recent flavors of Linux. You find the Z shell anyways. Okay, so but bash seems most like the de facto. Yeah, the differences are most times subtle. So usually slight difference, maybe just strings or a bit of the commands. Basically, they're most likely the same. For this tutorial, we'll be using bash. So stressing on the fact that we'll be using bash, we'll be using the CSH as well. Shell commands are case sensitive. Very important you know that if you're going to be executing a shell command, they usually are case sensitive. So which means you want to pay attention to uppercase letters or lowercase letters. That can give you a nightmare trying to execute a command or even run a script. So help. Whenever you need help, this is something that even the best programmer or the best Linux admin or even the best hacker will always fall back to. Most times, you just can't have all this bunch of switches for each of these commands on your head, on your mind. So you can always use the help or you can use the man to look up switches, flags for the commands which you intend to run. And that comes pretty handy. Most of the times, I find myself using this actually because with the complexities of what I do most times, there's a whole lot you have to put in your mind, and you just cannot put on all those switches in your mind. So switches in your mind, so you can always fall back to help a man, go to some reference and quickly figure out what you're looking for. So as an example here, we're seeing the man. We know it's the manual page for each of the commands that you've got on the Linux. So you have manual where you can go read up. It's just like you trying to install an application, and when you're done, it pops up this README file where you can read about it and understand a few tips of what you can do with the command or something like that. Guys, please hang on briefly. I think I'm gonna get in someone in this session. Hang on, please. Oh, Discord is frozen. Okay, excellent. Can you guys even hear me? Can you guys hear me? Hello?
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. I'm trying to interact with my server, but I think it's frozen. So I've been having this issue with this code on this RTOS, it's highly unstable. I need to do something about it. Keeps crashing. Can you still hear me? Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, okay, thanks. I'll just continue. I cannot get him in because it's frozen for now. I'll just proceed. Great. So that's that. Then also here we've got that still happening. We can see looking up for the man page of the command echo, and sometimes you see it gives you the option, it gives you the strings, it gives you the switches which you can use, and you can see here several flags that you can use to use the command echo to do what you want to do. So echo is one of the very basic commands you find. Most times you use it. Either you use it to write content into a file or even create a new file or play around with files. You can find this command come handy. So it's always good to go look up some of the switches that can help you do what you want to do with the command echo. Hit down the screen. So there goes echo hello world, and we're able to write the file hello world, and we can catch the content. Maybe we can type file into that or echo a file or echo a string into the file using that same command. Just a minute, I see there's a message coming on Discord. My phone, let me quickly. So I'm going to quickly get someone in this class. I see this code is. Jibril, can you hear me? Can you still hear me? Hello? 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 Oh no, this sucks. Hello? Hello? Jibril, can you hear me? Hello, can you guys hear me? Okay, so Discord is gone. It's gone slacking on me. Okay, hello. So I guess I'm gonna shut it down and try it up again. It's highly unstable. That's not really bad. Sorry about my language in this. Oh no. Excellent. Okay, just trying to set up the Discord so we can get back into the session. Please, guys, just hang on with me. Yeah, guys, sorry, yeah, Discord crashed on me. I keep having this problem with Discord. I think I should go look up Slack or maybe to see what's happening. Discord in parts sucks very bad, and it's not working out fine. It keeps crashing. So I'm gonna just share the screen again. Sorry about that, guys, and then we'll get back into this. Can you guys hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, okay, great. Can you see my screen? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, okay, cool, cool. Yeah, so sorry about the crash. Bad, really bad, really bad. Yeah, so we were talking about the echo command. You can use that to write content into a file, or even use that to create a new file, as you can see in the example on the screen here. So quickly moving on. Now, looking at the file system, it's also another very interesting aspect of Linux, which most people find very complex thing to deal with. It becomes ambiguous when you know there are a bunch of funny signs and symbols there you're trying to understand, like the X, X, W, arrow, and all those things. Some people are like, damn, how do you understand these things? I just cannot figure out what he's trying to do or say. So basically, it's good to talk about that also before we get our hands into the commands, the integrity commands. The file system is always something you need to understand if you really want to be a good penetration tester or it go hacker that will be using Linux or maybe auditing a Linux infrastructure as well. Because most times this is where you find a big chunk of your vulnerability. This is where you find it. This is also where you find possibilities of maybe exploiting stuffs like wrong file permissions or wrong file share, or maybe even down to some certain kernel exploit that relies on wrong file permissions as well. So quickly, let's take a look at it. So as you can see on the screen, again, we're saying Unix file names are case sensitive. Very important. We know that the file names also are case sensitive, not just the file. So we can see the slash there, which is the root directory as we know. Then we have this major hierarchy. We can see being XC, etc. The home, the user as well. Now, looking at that, for now, we're going to focus on just the home. Let's take a big peek into what the home looks like. So, a home is usually what you find like in a Windows environment. Uh, Users, if you open a typical Windows system, you'll find the C directory under which you'll find the users. You can find users. Then if you go into a users, you find the desktop, the downloads, and all that directories that the users have. So it's more like in a very big flat, you've got roommates that have their rooms, and in their rooms they've got their locks. So that's what it feels like. Now they all share the flat, but they've got their respective rooms with their locks. So which means they have the right to determine who they want to access their rooms. You can give someone a copy of the key if you want them to access your room, or you cannot give if you don't want nobody to access your room. That's just what it is in terms of the file permission, the way it's presented. I think it's the same thing for both Windows and Linux. So we can see the home directory under which you've got the users, John and Mary. And John is got his environment. Now, a good Linux system admin should know how to effectively configure the home directories for all the users within that home directory. And this is where most times you find problems. You find John sharing a file with Mary, and there are no proper permission set on that file. Who owns the file? In terms of who owns the file, in terms of what the owner and the group where the owner belongs to, as well as every other person who is not a part of the group and not the owner, what they can do with that file. That's where the fault usually comes, because most times it's an overlook, or most times it's just a silo. Probably one or two departments sharing, and nobody's taking responsibility of it. It becomes a silo, right? So they pass in the baton. No, it's your responsibility. No, it's my responsibility, and nobody owns that. So that's one of the major problems you find happening here. But just a minute, quick. There's a message from someone. Okay. Okay. Just doing some background chat. Okay, so let me get back into this. Great. Now we've seen that in the home you've got the users. Then each user is got their own stuff. So usually you find we use if I'm going to navigate to maybe portfolio, I can start at the root directory. Then after the root directory, I find the home. Then after the home, I'm going to go to John, who is a part of home. Then I'm going to go to the portfolio, which is a part of John, who belongs in the home and also part of the root directory. Great. See the way it works that way, and you can just work your way all the way back. Now, there is a vulnerability called directory transversal, which most times you'll find hackers exploits in servers. What it does, I think there was a video I uploaded on, I shared in the previous class we had. I'm going to put it on YouTube. Access control for web servers. I was using the technique called directory transversal. So if proper file access permission has not been set, I can use dot dot backslash jump to John, dot dot backslash jump to home, dot dot backslash jump to roots. Then I can use maybe a technique to jump to Etsy. Now they may have configured good file permission all the way back to home, but they had not configured restrictions for me accessing these other directories within the root directory. Then it becomes easier for me to traverse directory all the way back and jump through these restricted areas, maybe even get into the Etsy and probably dump the shadow file to view the password. I think I did that in that video. I'm going to look for it and put it on YouTube so you guys could probably go check it up and see. I used that technique on that video, and it was pretty fun to watch. So that's what it is now at this level. So moving on, we can also see that a command pwd is the first one which you're looking at officially. So I'm choosing this one as the first official one because if you want to know where you want to go to, you need to know where you are at the moment, right? So it's more like print working directory. So I want to find out where I'm at the moment. pwd quickly tells you where you are. Now for some Linux distro, you will see that being listed in the terminal there to show you where you are. But for some others, it won't show you where you are. So I think Kali Linux does that with the C shell. I think Ubuntu also does that, but the RPM Red Hat Enterprise Linux doesn't. So you need to print working directory to be able to see where you are. Even the OpenSUSE doesn't, as well as your other distro built on RPM, they don't do that. So you need to use the pwd to show where you want or where you are to know where you want to go to. So as you can see in the command being used there, pwd, telling us we're in /f/c05 Rishi Linux tutorial. Great. So I know where I'm at. So if I want to go somewhere else, I know how to find my way around from where I'm at to where I want to go to. So you could also use the man pwd to find out other switches. Hello? Any question, any comment?
Yeah.
Hello? Hello? Okay, so I guess I heard someone speaking, but it's fine. We'll just continue. So I said you can also use the man to find out other options available for PWD, just so you learn, or use the help to find out other options so you can learn how that works as well. So quickly, we're going to jump. Next is CD. Now CD is just the name change directory. So if I want to change directory, I'm going to use the CD, and I can use this to either go back or I can use this to go forward, depending on how you use it. We're going to, maybe after this, we'll take a break and see some demo then of these commands that we've looked at thus far. Then we'll pick it up from there again. So CD is just to change directory, very easy to use as well. So you can see if I want to go to the home directory, I use this tilde, CD tilde, then it takes me to the home directory. Or I can still do CD, maybe the root, then the home. But that's more like a long route. You want to go to the root, then to the home. You just use this and it points me directly to the home directory where I want to go to. Pretty easy to use as well. Then also you can see the use of the double dots. So if I want to go maybe a step backward, I can use the CD dot dots. It takes me a step backward, as you can see on the screen here. Right now I'm in Linux tutorial. Then if I use the CD back, it takes me a step back from Linux tutorial to the Wishy. So you can see if I print the working directory right now, I'm in Wishy, no more the Linux tutorial. I'd move the step backward. If I want to go forward again, I can use the CD and point it to the path where Linux tutorial is to get into that directory again. Okay. Then ls is also another very good one. In fact, this is quite robust because beyond what it is, just at the basic level. Maybe I should pause this now and let's go do some demo. So let's do some demo. So quickly, I'm here writing my parrots. I think if I try the first one, PWD, which we saw, it shows me I'm in home cybersecrets. Now, parrot gives you an idea right on the terminal, so I can see, even without typing it, I can see. It's just for simplicity where I'm at. So I don't have to type PWD to know where I'm at. It just lines it up for me. I know I'm in home cybersecrets. Great. I can maybe move a step backward. And again, if I print working directory, I see I'm going back to home and still on the terminal. You see, it shows me I'm in home now. Okay, great. Now, let's say I go probably cybersecrets, then maybe download, then maybe overpass. And I want to go back. I could do a cheat if it's going to work here. I don't know. I could do cd dot dots. It takes me all the way back to home. So I didn't have to do cd this, then maybe to do cd dot dot, then press enter, then next again enter. No, I just used the concept of directory transversal. So I'm moving from a current directory all the way back to home. If you look at the hierarchy, I was in overpass, download, cybersecrets, home. So if I do the first dot dot slash, it means I've jumped one step back from overpass to downloads. The second dot dot slash, I jumped to cybersecrets. And the third dot dot slash, I jumped to home. Now I can use a command like this, a directory transversal like this, to jump to maybe I know where the password file is. Probably the etc.password or etc.shadow. I can use something like this to map my way back. Maybe if there is a server that I could browse to, I'm going to set up something, a server I could browse through. I could use directory transversal like this from that server to go all the way back from where the server directory is to where the users directory are, and probably dump the user list, or maybe dump the password hashes or stuff like that. it's pretty common to find this happen most times, even at enterprise level, because I'd seen this happen at a very robust enterprise, and it was like, wow, for real. That's because most times it's been overlooked. You just go ahead and configure users, configure shells, configure their directory for Linux, and you fail to probably set the proper permissions and restrictions so users don't start moving around going to look out for restricted areas where they shouldn't be able to access officially. Okay, so that's for the CD, the PWD. Now the next one which we had on that list was LS. Great. So LS I did say is robust. I could use a simple LS. So what happened? It listed just what is directly in that working directory that I am at, and it's more or less just a direct listing. It doesn't give me maybe details of the permissions or anything else. So if I want to grab maybe a bit more details, trust me, I could also use the L. Oh, sorry, I could use the L. It will list the same thing for me with the path. But most times, you find most people don't use the L. So if I want to find out a bit more details, I can use the LS. Maybe type L. Now it's showing me more stuff. I can see the permissions. I can see the user. I can see the group. And I can also see if it's a document, if it's a folder or a file. I can as well see a bit of timestamps, right? Showing me more detail. I can see timestamp telling me either the date created or date last modified, stuff like that. And all that giving me the number of files within that directory as well. A bit more details, a bit more information. Whereas on the Windows environment, you just click, right? Double click, opens the folder, and you see everything right there. You can do that still on the Linux, so we don't feel Linux is more like crazy people. I could open up maybe a file explorer as well, so you can also find this in most Linux, actually, right? But this is the catch: if you're going to be administering Linux, the server will be sitting somewhere in the data center, so you're not going to open. Most times, they won't allow you to open a file explorer like this and be doing your click. No, most times you only have a remote connection either via SSH, most times even via SSH or any other secure method that you have authenticated to the server. So you see just a terminal session. You got to do all your administration from a terminal session. So which means you might be restricted. You won't have access to this. But just to show you, I can still go in here and execute the same command that I'm executing there. So I'm in the home directory, right? I'm going to go back to the home. Let's look for that. So this is Cyber Citrix. Then let's see the desktop content. Go back. I can see every file and folders within this directory, just the same way you're seeing them from the terminal. Okay, but one quick caveat why the terminal also comes handy. I could see even hidden files, Linux, even Windows as well. It's got this feature where you can hide certain files. For Linux, if you put a dot in front of the file name, it becomes hidden automatically. So there are a bunch of hidden files, I believe, here. So to view hidden files, I can do ls, maybe tag al. So I can now start seeing some dots, show me that there are some hidden directories here. A sample of a hidden file will be something you find in the let's say cats.ssh. Let me see what's in here. No, so let me locate. So I can see that is in I'm just going to cancel that quickly. I can see that if I do maybe a cat home, or I'm just going to change to home, sorry. Cyber Citrix. If I list the content, now if I use the normal ls, I see only this, I cannot see the hidden. I don't even see bit more details. So I'm going to use the other commands just to show you. I can use the tag L. Now I'm seeing more details like the maybe group of the file, the owner of the file, the group of the file, or the owner of the file. Then also seeing permissions that are set for owners, group, and others. And sometime in one of the sessions we had, I'd explained this hold D showing you the directory, arrow WX read write execute for the owner of the file, the first three for the owner, then the next three are for the group, then the last three are for every other person. So you could also have a sticky bits, or you could have a sweet bits also set here. You see the S flag being indicative of that. So, but for this, we just have for D, it shows it's a directory. If no D is a file, you won't see anything in the front. So you see, it's nothing, just a dash, meaning it's a file. So great. Now, if I want to list the hidden files, I can use the ls-l. Now it starts showing me stuff like .xauthority, .session error, and all these are hidden files, right? I didn't see them from the start. So it means if I want to view these hidden files, I need to use the tag al or even la. Without we want to flip it around, you can do the same thing anyways. And there's also one more I want to show you, ls tag lh. So let's clear the screen. Let's put al here, then let's put lh here. Oh, sorry, that's not typing. Something wrong with this. It's dying. I'm just gonna close it. Okay, so I think I'm gonna put it down up there. So put ls tag lh. I'm gonna stretch this a bit just so it's visible. So let's look at both of them. So let's do a quick comparison. Maybe I should go to the same directory. So I'm going to clear this. CD to home, Cyber Citrix. All right, great. So now they look alike. So if we look at them, you could see there's a slight difference between both commands executed. The AL or LA shows me the hidden directories, but the LH is not showing the hidden directories, but it's just showing. Just I don't want to see all those crappy stuff that are hidden in the background. Who cares about this stuff? I just want to see maybe the folders. I want to see the owners of the files. I want to see maybe the permission set for each of those files and folders. Yeah, I just work with LH. If I want to see maybe a bit more of those crappy stuffs in the background, those hidden files and folders, then I can use the AL. So you see how robust the ls command is. Now to see more details, I can clear this. I could use the man ls just to show you. There's a bunch of other switches you can use. Most times you'll find that you can use the human readable switch. I think it's a H, so there's a H switch. Yeah, but who cares? Nobody really does that anyways. So it just comes out in a human readable format for you to work with. But there are a bunch of other switches which you can work with. So as a good practice, it's good to use the man, view it. You can, if it's too much for you to do, you've not gotten to those advanced, you could probably point that out to maybe more. So you can start doing next, okay, page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, and stuff like that, using the space button or use the enter button to scroll per line. Or you could do less as well, but I'm not going to do that. You can even grab for a particular switch. Let's say I'm looking for the tag L. I could grab, so pull out from this whole bunch of files. Okay, let me not go into grab because we're going to see that later. That might be me jumping too fast for some of us here. Okay, great. So I'm just going to take a chill pill here, then go back to our slide and proceed. Okay, great. Now we've got that thing happening there, and we've seen a bit of all these commands we've talked about. Let's take in some few more. So we've seen all this, just showing you some specific switches that you can work with. You could try that on your own, and I believe it'll help a lot. Great. There's some combining like LTR to look at maybe in reverse order or in forward listing order, or maybe truncating or specific files and all this stuff. You can use grep also to do all that thing anyways. Like I did say, there is no limit to what you can do in Linux most times because it's text-based, right? It's just how much you can imagine and how much that falls within the boundaries of the acceptable. Okay. Sometimes you can use scripts to tweak the acceptable to do what you want to do also. That's why it's a programmable operating system as compared to the Windows. Okay, so here we can see the output of the LTR giving us in the reverse order. So it makes it also easy to read actually. All you're trying to do is to get a clean output that becomes easy to read or make some sense to you as a human. Okay. So we've got something happening here. We're using a wildcard asterisk. So we can see we can use wildcard as well in Linux to probably also do some more advanced searches. I don't know the full name, or I don't want to look at just a specific full name. I want to look at all the files with an extension, as in the example here, PL. So if I want to look out for, maybe there are a bunch of files, dozens of files in the directory with extension PL, but I want to see all of them quickly. I want to see maybe some of them with specific similarities. I could use wildcards like the asterisk to do that. So you see what is happening here. Yes, I'm listing the content of the directory, but I only want to see the files with extension .pl. So I use the wildcard.pl, only will show me files with .pl extension. So quickly, I'm going to go to next. Then comes the mkdir make directory, just make directory. So as the name sounds, you want to create a new folder. You use the make directory to do that. Pretty easy to use. As you can see on the screen, we're listing first the content of that directory. And after listing, we're now making a new directory. Then when we list the content, we can see the new directories there. Great. So it doesn't mean you can make the directory only in that specific location. You can make a directory to a different location. You can point your new directory to where you want it to be. So you can just use the slash where direct, just map it to where you want it to be, and the directory will be created in there. So it's not limited to only your current working directory. You can create the directory in any other directories. Then the rmdir is to remove directory. Now there's the rm to remove a file. If you want to use rm to remove a directory, you can as well use it. So most times myself, I don't use this rmdir because it seems like a little bit of too much to type. I just feel too lazy to start typing rmdir. I could just use the rm tac r. So if I use rm tac r, then I can remove a directory. But if I just want to remove a file, rm will take it off. But if you use rm to attempt to remove a directory, it won't work. Maybe I should take a pause here again and look at stuff. So where am I? Let me see. What do I have in here? Do I have anything I want to delete? Okay, I'll go to download. I've got a bunch of stuff that I think I can delete. Sorry. Clear my screen. Okay, so maybe I want to delete me photos. I think there was a spyware that I was working on, and I ran it, and I think that was where it dumped those photos, I suspect, but I'm not going to open those photos anyways. Great. So let's say I want to take it out from there. So just like we're mentioning, I could use the rmdir, right? And also a quick neat cheat. You can use a tab to autocomplete. So let's say you know part of the command, but you don't know everything. RMD, a tab autocompletes it for you. And that saves you a lot of headache. So if I use this command, I can remove that photo. But I want to show you something. Let me try to remove it using the RM, and I'm going to put the me photo. See what happened there. This is something most times that gives people headache in Linux. So there's a directory with space in the name. So Linux most times will not directly interpret the space as space. So you see what is happening? It had to look for a way to interpret that as one name, me photo, as a name of a directory, not two different directories, me and photo. No, me photo. So you see it puts the / there, telling you that I'm escaping that space. So this will not be treated as me is an entity and photo is another entity. No, both of them are one. So the forward slash had to come there. Imagine if I didn't put that forward slash there. Let me just show you something. Me photo, and I try to remove dir. Of course, there is no such file in that directory with that name. You see, it's now treating them as me, one, and photo as another file. And obviously, there is nothing like that in that directory. So you want to pay attention to a way to escape the space. You find this most times when you're doing scripting or some advanced scripting in Linux. This can be a nightmare to you. It can actually give you a headache. It's just not working, but you know it's there. It's just an overlook or an oversight, not knowing that there is a file there with a name, with a space. That's why most times when I name, I'd rather use hyphen, the dash, to link it together so it becomes easier for me to work with. But sometimes you also find me doing stuff like that because of course I'm a human, and also anybody also would do that because it's just simple to say out my photo or me photo or anything. So let me go back to the initial command. So we had rm, we want to remove me photo. So let me execute this. See, it's saying rm cannot remove me photo because it's a directory. So which means rm can remove a file, but not a directory. I repeat, rm can remove a file in the directory. So it's not going to. Let me do something. Let me copy Blesley.ovpn. I'm going to give it copy this and name this Blesley1.ovpn just for an exercise sake. So I've got a new ovpn file there. So I'm going to try the rm Blesley1. So you see rm will remove this, right? Because it's a file. It's not a directory. But if I try that on a directory, rm won't do it. So for me to remove me photo, I can use rm tag r. So tag r meaning I want to remove directory. So I'll come that to me photo, and obviously it's going to take it out. So if I list the content, it's no more there. I've removed it. So you see. Now you also want to be very careful when you remove files in Linux. Okay, just like Windows, you remove files, you can go to your recycle bin and find them, right? But Linux, let me go to the recycle bin. So we're not just talking storage. I'm going to open so this is my trash, right? What do I have in there? Nada, empty, nothing. So everything I'm removing it. Although there's a way I can get them back, but I'm just trying to make you understand that unlike Windows, when you delete something, it goes into the trash. Linux, it doesn't. So I can find none of those things in here. It's gone, like gone. Great. Not gone anyways, but it's gone. Just know that. All right. So back to the slide. We've seen how rm can remove a file, rmdir can remove a directory, then rm tag r can remove a directory as well. So going back to our slides, let's see how much more we can take. We're in 19. We're still a long way to go. So displaying file. These you will find also being used a couple of times. Cat, less, head, tail. They all try to do the same thing anyways, display the content of a file, but they do it differently. So cat will dump everything there, just right at your face. Take it. Head will show you the first part of it. Less will show you maybe a content that you have to go next to see more. While tail will show you the last part. Usually for some Linux distro, I think the last 5, tail will show you that. For head will show you the first 5. But you can also set that in your bash history RC file to show you more anyways. It doesn't mean that's all it can show. You can set it to show you more. So these are also very handy, very, very useful. So let's maybe go look at them, the 4 of them: cat, less, head, and tail. We'll stop this and go back to here. So for this, I'm going to go into my directory where Linux store logs. So I'm going to cd into bar and log. So here you've got a bunch of logs, Good. So what good way to use this command than using it to probably administer a Linux server, probably reviewing the logs, authentication logs, who is trying to get into your box or hack into your box, or who is trying to try multiple wrong passwords, brute force attack, and you just take the IP and go dump it. drop it somewhere in your firewall and restrict them from doing nasty stuff. Okay, so you can see in the logs, you've got logs for practically almost everything running in the box. So there's log for authentication for boots, BTMP, bitmap. You've got logs for specific applications like MySQL, Nginx, NTP stats. You've got the journal. The journal gives you more like a robust log of everything happening within that Linux authentication module. Then you've got some other specific applications like the Samba. The Samba, we talked about that in one of those videos. I think just like you see in SMB in Windows. So you've got a bunch of other logs happening here, WTMP, very good fun stuff that you can use to administer Linux. Now, I've got the Linux, Jibril is here. Jibril is more like a Linux admin expert. So probably let's maybe take a pause and hear from him. Linux, Jibril, can you probably tell us a bit about what administering a Linux server feels like? Specifically, maybe around log management, looking at logs. Can you tell us a bit?
Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, sure, sure. Loud and clear.
Okay. So the reason for the logs is you want to make sure that you log everything. If you look at the what you already displayed, let me focus on the auth log. So the auth log is it records any authentication into the server, which means if somebody is trying to get into your system, that auth log is going to capture it. So from there, you know who's coming in and who's going out. Same thing with the last log that could able to tell you, all the users on the machine currently. And I can see you have my SQL log, you have the Ingis log and the user log. I would just say generally it just logs everything in the computer. You just keep track of what's going on with the server and you could always go there to look for whatever you need. So it's always good to keep your log. So I think that's the main thing. Keep your log. Make sure you don't get it deleted. You make sure they are backed up. It's in case of if an hacker gets in and is trying to wipe his track, it can wipe his track on the server. But if you have a centralized log server, when you use syslog, that would push all the log to that server. Then you could easily use the log to know what's going on with the server. So depending on what you host on the server, you could have different kind of logs. So I think that's the most part of it.
Excellent, excellent stuff. You've heard from the mouth of an expert anyway. So what else do you want me to say? Just the exact truth about what these logs can do. Now, a more practical example. I was on a client environment, and I believe Djibri's got a bunch of these experiences also. And yeah, we had to triage an incident that had happened, and someone within the client environment had carried out some malicious activity, and it becomes very difficult. In fact, I was so ashamed of myself and of the company because by the time we began the investigation you cannot do without logs actually, because that's the first level of visibility you need to investigate an incident, right? So we started asking for logs, and there goes the enterprise server admin saying, we only log for 2 days. Okay, do you have a backup? Ah, no, we don't have space. We delete the logs after 2 days. I was like, damn. So, you mean for all these servers in the rack, there are no 1 week backlog of logs? Say no. Okay, do you have any other tool within the infrastructure that is actually logging, maybe at a remote location? These tools are just there to monitor, they don't log. Oh wow. So in fact, we at that point we just gave up because there was nothing we could do. The person who was carrying out the malicious act, he is actually an admin. So he has permissions and rights. So everything he does, he clears those logs, just like Jibril mentioned from the servers. He clears them off. So the server log, which we probably could have fallen back to, they were missing logs. There was nothing to write home about. then maybe a centralized login infrastructure that we could maybe go back and pull out logs. There was also nothing there. Now it becomes like, we don't know our job, or we cannot do our job because there was nothing we could do practically. There was nothing. So at that point, we gave up. Went back to the C executives, and we're like, oh, if someone commits a crime, you cannot catch the person because there is no proof to catch the person. And it was sad. It was pretty sad because it's a very big company. But anyways, that's just to let you understand how important, how critical login is. Because if you don't have login sorted out, you can make a whole mess of incidents. You can make a whole mess of incidents. Okay, so going back to those commands which you had mentioned, now there are ways I could probably automate those commands to probably just keep reviewing what comes into each of these logs, and I can fall back and look at them very, excuse me, I can just look at them on a real-time screen to monitor real time. That's more or less waste of time because it says they are centralized login, that they are SIEM solutions that gives you one pane of glass, which everybody craves for, and makes it easy for you to manage and monitor logs. So, but today we just want to use the basic. Let's start with the cat. So I can cat maybe boot log. Okay, there's nothing in that. Maybe I could try that on boot, which is the recent should be boot log 7, I believe. Bootlog.7, sorry. Okay, great. So this seems like a more recent stuff. So I can see the bunch of stuffs. Now, this is the limitation of cat. If you're not using it with maybe more other sensible or maybe other flexible commands like grep, or maybe some arc of some set to do specific things, it becomes very useless because it just dumps everything at your face. And you're like, damn, this is too much. So I could use maybe a cat, and I can pipe this to the pipe to maybe more, just so I can now look at them page by page. So I can use enter to go to the next page, enter to go to the next page, enter to go to the next page. Or I could use, remember we talked about the head. I could use the head. So this is just going to give me, oh, sorry, there's a cat there. Let me take that out. Sorry. Okay, so head cannot open this. I'm not sure why. Let me try the tail. I think I tried this before some months back. I'm not sure. This also cannot open it. I think they can do it on the journal. I think we can do the journal. Which other command do I have there? Just by move on. Let's shoot. I think.
Check the permissions.
No such file in the directory. Oh, okay. I think I've got a problem with the dots. I didn't put the dots. Okay, so see it anyway. Yeah. Maybe binary file. So I think you're right. If I do the ls stack, maybe lh, I could look at, but I'm already a root user, so I think for specifics, some of them you cannot actually use those. Like maybe the journal, I should be able to do that with those commands. Let me try that. Maybe just do a basic listing. I saw the journal somewhere. Okay, so I can use head and that stuff. Oh, it's a directory, sorry. Great, so I can use head here. So I was trying to list the new entry, but there are no new entry. I can use the tail here. It's supposed to. I'm not sure why. Probably listing the new entry as well. Because I've used that before. But there doesn't seem to be any new entry. Okay, so I'm gonna go back. trying to be a bit fast because I want to close this session pretty fast and jump into something else. Oh, sorry. Oh my gosh, my type. Okay. So great. So basically, I'm gonna do that on Outlog. Maybe see if that work. Cats Outlog. Then let's see. Okay, great. So the head works here. Now I'm listing only the first. I think this lists the first one, two, three, four, five, about 6 or 7 or so. Not sure. First 6, 7 entry in that log, so I can see who had authenticated to the box. It becomes easy to review or administer who had made an attempt to authenticate. It gives me the UID, so I see root is the person. I can see the pluggable authentication module telling me that find Charles the KX exec, root open a session, and then the UID is 1000, and also a few other things happening. You can also use the tail here to see the last entry. So these are the last set of entries. Head and tail working their thing there. Sorry about the dog again. I didn't lock it actually. It's beginning to go crazy. Okay, great. So that's head, tail, less, cats. We've seen all that stuff happening. Now you can take this to the next level. Start making it a bit complex. Adding some, using the grep type to look for specifics. So let's say someone had authenticated via SSH. On this my server, I have locked up SSH, so nobody can actually use key authentication unless public key. The certificate authentication is what can work. You can authenticate with using one password. You can only use the public key, the private key, sorry, to authenticate. That's when you authenticate. So I cannot demo that here. What I was going to say is, let's say someone had authenticated via SSH, and I want to look up for the IP that had done that, or maybe had attempted to authenticate. I could use cats, then I could now start using grep, pipe it to grep and look for specific, maybe an idea of the IP, or look for specific. I can build a string of command that go in and scan the whole log and look for new entries that are foreign to my environment. What I mean by foreign, in terms of the IP range, foreign to my environment. That's where you see all them awk coming in to do some very crazy stuff. I believe we'll get to those level, but we're still within the basics. Doesn't have feet wets bit by bit. Okay, so quickly run through a few more, then we'll call it a shot for tonight because I see we're shooting time. So we've seen the cat, dumps everything there. We've seen the last, talk about that also. We've seen the head, talk about 10. Okay, great. First 10 lines. I think in red hats, I think it's about 5. I'm not sure it's 10. I'm not sure. Some 5. But you can also specify, as I say. See what is happening here. Looking for the first 50 lines because I want to see all of that. And I could maybe run that command. I don't want to start going advanced. I could run that command and maybe pass it to a file. So I could just go collect that file, export it somewhere else, and do my analysis. Let's say there's a bunch of stuffs in there. If I don't want to fall back to the screen and show some stuff, but just what I'm trying to say is I could run a command like this, show me the first 50 lines in the file, and pass it to a document. So pass it to a document file, maybe the .txt file, and export that, or write down the command terminal. I can send it to a server somewhere where it's going to be received, and I can go analyze, or someone else who has access can go do some analysis or deep dive. And that's what really happens around the SOC environment most times. You just collect real time, dump it in the sandbox, and start doing your analysis to understand what is and what isn't, or what shouldn't be. So we'll get to those levels. We're still around, that's basic. So we see that happening here. Listen to the content of the lines of text. What is that? Still basic anyways. But just so we understand what these commands can do, we've seen the RM. I'm going to skip it. A copy, CP is to copy anyways. So just like the name implies, as in the example you can see there, we listen the content, then we're copying. I think I used this not quite long. We're copying data.dat to data2.dat. So what that's going to do is going to copy data.dat, rename it to data2.dat, as you can see in the example here. Now we've got data2.dat and also data.dat. So it creates a new one and give it a name data2.dat. Now if I use the move mv, if I run the same command and use, rather than copy, if I use mv, it's going to just rename the file from data.dat to data2.dat. I won't have data.dat anymore in the directory. So you should know the difference between move, mv, and copy. If I copy, I'll create a new copy of it. If I move, I'm completely moving the file. Okay. So, oh yeah, there goes move. So I'll just keep this because I've talked about this already. And yeah. RM we talked about also, so you can see that happening there. Then I talked about the tag arrow switch. For some Linux distro, it takes capital R. I think Ubuntu also, I'm not sure. It doesn't take small r, but I'm not sure. Maybe I've only noticed that on the Red Hat Enterprise, and it takes the capital R, not the small r. So, but for Debian distros, I think small r is fine. If you're going to work on Ubuntu, I think Ubuntu or maybe Red Hat, even OpenSUSE, it's going to be the capital R. Yeah. Okay, then here goes file permission. I explained the ls stack L. See that's in display happening here. And I've also explained the RxW read, write, execute. And these have numbers as well, 2, 4, 1. So you see the idea of 7 coming into play. 7 is read, write, execute. So if someone is doing ch mode 777, which is a very bad thing to do, actually, very, very bad thing to do. But most times when you watch videos on maybe YouTube, they'll tell you just change ch mode to 777. But why do you have to do that? If you mostly they do that on executable, and that's really bad, because when you do that on executable, you're giving everybody godlike permission. So the owner of the file, anybody in the group of the owner, and any other person, it's got a godlike permission, and that's where exploit comes in. Because if I know that any other person can read, write, execute, I think I was working on a job and I was using anonymous user to read and write into a shell. That was really like, wow, I was super excited I could do that, but it was a bad configuration, right? Because they had set maybe permissions like 776 or 766, which shouldn't be. If ever that person does not need a write access, give them a read access. Let them be able to read the contents, but not being able to put something, mostly when it's an executable, maybe when it's a sensitive file. So you want to always look out for that. Myself, I audit most of my Linux servers using certain scripts to look out for bad permissions like this. I can share those scripts with us later and let me know so I can quickly remediate them, because that happens when I'm trying to install stuff rapidly. I'm just trying to install like a script. I just give it chmode 777. Then later I realize that, oh damn, I don't need this because this script only executes as root. So why should I give another person super user permission to use that script? Okay, so that's it over there for you happening, the permissions. Then we explained this already, the user of the file or the directory, the group being the next one, and every other person, the world. Very interesting. Okay, so imagine giving the world read, write, executes. So the next time you were doing chmode 777, you think it through. Is this wise or is this a dumb idea to do? All right, great. So quickly wrapping up. Okay, there goes the chmode thing. And I just told you how you can use that to do some nasty stuff and some good stuff as well. Okay, so you can either use the number or you can use letters to assign permissions as well. You can use numbers or letters. I'll be glad to demo that maybe later. Then goes the PS command. PS actually gives an idea of the processes running. Now, PS is also another very important or critical command, because most times you want to audit the processes and shut down some nasty things, eating up your memory. Although Linux will say it's lightweight, but you could have some nightmare processes eating up your memory. So you always want to review that using the PS. It's got a bunch of switches. If you use the man, you'll see a bunch of switches which can help you do nice stuff. Yes. And there are also some programs like the top and the H top that can make it pretty easy for you, give you like a GUI idea. You just view in it and see them real time. You can kill what you don't need exactly right there. If you're using the PS, you can use the kill signal to kill, either using the kill sig term or the kill sig or just the kill all, kill specific. They've got different, I think, kill sig term will first try to stop the jobs before killing the process, but kill sig will just kill it directly without even stopping the job. That most times that comes handy. Maybe there's something hanging and you just want to terminate its life. The kill sig will just kill it straight, or use the kill tag 9. It kills it straight. But if you don't want to maybe lose some configuration that you were doing and you got stopped, you can use the kill sig term. It's going to try to shut it down before killing it. Okay. Then here goes the top 10. Pretty cool. H stop is more advanced. Then here goes the Q stuff I was just talking about. So Q9, try to stay away from 9. It's like you using a shotgun. It just scatters the person's body. Pretty bad. Okay. All right. So finally, we go around redirection, piping, input, output, and all this stuff. This, you've seen me using the pipe. So it's more like you're passing another command still in the same line. You've seen the redirect, also me using this. I'm going to write into a file directly, or I'm going to remove or pass back to a file, input or take out. Then all that's happening there. What else do we have here? Okay, here goes the last thing. We've seen this in display in our dialog. And also example of piping happening here. So we see with piping, we're executing these scripts, it's a Perl script, then we're piping the output. You don't want to see the dirty output on our screen. So we're piping it directly into a file. Most times, if you know there's a bunch of trash, you can pipe to what we call dev null. Dev null is more like, what do you call that in the field of science? Black hole. It's a black hole. So you can pipe to dev null. You just dump everything in the black hole. You don't want to see all those trash. But if you want some useful content, you can pipe directly to a file, like sequence of text. You can now review the file, see what the output of the command you just executed or the script you just ran was. As you can see, less sequence of text. It's going to view the outputs of sequence of text. Then WC is another very good one. It's called word counts. More or less, I barely use this anyways. I'm sorry, but it comes handy also most times you want to do quick analysis of the words in maybe your command. Let's say you're programming a script that you want to run directly from in a Windows environment, directly from maybe something like the run on Windows. And the run is got the limits in terms of the buffer. So you can use WC to quickly count how many characters are in your command, and that saves you some headache. It's not being able to fit into that run window. Okay, then still wrapping up an example of piping going on here. I'm running this Perl script, then I'm piping to WC, so counting the number of words from the output of these scripts. It gives me an idea of it straight up. Then grep, a very friendly command, very friendly. You want to pull out, grep, take from, pull out specific strings from the output of a command. You can use grep, and that comes pretty handy a lot of times, So diff is also another very good one. I think I've seen Jibril demo this in on his Linux 100 days or so Linux command stuff. It was pretty fun also anyways. Pretty fun. So you can see diff giving you an idea of what difference is. So if you look at the command they try, say div dev null header text. So basically what that's trying to do is we're looking at a special address, then it's always empty. We know dev null, like I told you, is a black hole. So basically anything moves in there is deleted by default because it's a black hole. So we can use div to find out the difference between when we had view earlier and when we're viewing. If there's anything in there, or if there's anything happening in there, or like checking, okay, is there anything new in there? Or if there's nothing new, okay, fine. So div gives you an idea of how to compare and find contrast. Then I think that's the last one I've got here on my screen. Apologies, I was a bit fast. I was trying to wrap up because I want to shut down the meeting. And we had seen quite a bunch of the basics. Now the advanced Linux commands. So I specifically had done this for those who requested. Uh, uh, um, these are basics. Do not think we've seen advanced. These are basically Linux commands. But if I'm going to be very friendly and truthful to you, these basics are what you do more than 50% when you administer Linux. Even when you're hacking with Linux, you find me using this more than even 60% most times, because they are more or less what you use most often. The other advanced ones, less often you use them because they are automated tools and scripts that can do all this advanced stuff. But these basics, they take more than 60-70% of what you do in your day-to-day activity around Linux. So that's why I'm focusing on them. So I'm going to stop the session here, but I'll be glad to do another session probably on Saturday where we can now get into the box and make a mess of the box, which has got some bad permissions set, and probably exploit those bad permissions to gain remote code execution on the box and have some fun. So this is it for today. I'm going to open it up. If you guys got some questions, some comments, Jibril, any one of you, please, some comments, some heads up, add up. Please feel free to do that. Thank you.
Overall, it was a good overview, so that's good.
Great. Thanks for that comment. Okay. Thanks for that comment. Anybody else?